I stood in my childhood home's doorway, still weak from surgery, staring at my bare ring finger. 3 weeks in the hospital fighting for my life, and this was my welcome home. Mom stood there smiling, actually proud of what she'd done. "Thanks to your ring, your brother finally got what he deserved," she said, like she'd done something noble. I laughed. Not a happy laugh, but the kind that bubbles up when reality becomes too absurd. "What's so funny?" she demanded. Her grin was about to disappear forever. 3 months earlier, my life had seemed like a fairy tale coming true. Mark had just proposed to me at Kendall Jackson Vineyard in Napa Valley, the place where we'd had our first real date 3 years ago. He'd gotten down on one knee right as the sun was setting over the endless rows of grapevines and pulled out a ring that literally took my breath away. It wasn't just any ring either. It was his grandmother's Art Deco engagement ring from 1928, passed down through 3 generations of his family. The center stone was a 3-carat diamond, surrounded by smaller sapphires in a platinum setting that had been lovingly maintained for nearly a century. When we had it appraised for insurance, the jeweler's eyes had widened. $15,000, he'd said. Though to Mark and me, its sentimental value was priceless. I'm Angelica, 28 years old, and I'd worked as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital of Sacramento for 6 years. It wasn't the highest-paying job, but watching sick kids get better and being part of their healing journey filled my soul in ways money never could. Mark was an architect at a prestigious firm downtown, designing sustainable buildings that would shape our city's skyline for generations. We were that couple everyone said was perfect for each other, and for once, I actually believed it. My family, on the surface, looked pretty typical for suburban Sacramento. My parents, Jennifer and Robert, had been married for 32 years. Dad worked as a middle manager at a logistics company, and Mom was a part-time receptionist at a dental office. Then, there was Tyler, my younger brother at 25, who my parents still called their baby boy despite him being a grown man who stood 6 feet 2 inches tall. If you'd asked anyone who knew us, they'd probably say Tyler was the star of the family. He'd been the high school quarterback, homecoming king, the kid everyone expected to do great things. I'd been the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who did her homework without being asked and never missed curfew. I'd graduated summa cum laude from nursing school while Tyler dropped out of college twice, first from business school and then from communications. But somehow, in my parents' eyes, Tyler was always one opportunity away from greatness while I was just doing what was expected. I'd supported Tyler through everything. When his first business venture failed, a food truck that never actually bought any food, I'd given him $3,000 to pay off his debts. When his second attempt at entrepreneurship crashed, some kind of app development company where he was the idea guy but never actually learned to code, I'd covered his rent for 6 months. When he totaled his car driving home from a party, I'd bought him a used Honda Civic so he could get to the job he lost 2 weeks later. The Sunday before everything went wrong, we'd had family dinner at my parents' house. I'd shown Mom the ring again, even though she'd already seen it a dozen times. She'd held my hand up to the light, watching the diamonds sparkle, and said, "It's nice, sweetie. Though it seems a bit much for someone who works with sick kids all day. Won't you be worried about damaging it?" Tyler had looked at it and whistled. 15 grand? Man, Mark must really love you to drop that kind of cash. That's like what I could do with $15,000 for my business ideas. It was his grandmother's, I'd explained for the 100th time. The value isn't about the money. Must be nice, Tyler had muttered, and Dad had patted his shoulder sympathetically, as if I'd somehow wronged him by getting engaged with a family heirloom. The next morning, I'd woken up at 4 with stabbing pains in my abdomen. By 5, I was curled up on my bathroom floor, unable to stand straight. Mark had rushed me to the emergency room, where my colleague and friend, Dr. Patricia Santos, immediately recognized the signs of acute appendicitis. "We need to get you into surgery now," she'd said, her usually calm face creased with concern. But during the surgery, they discovered my appendix had already perforated. What should have been a routine procedure turned into a fight against peritonitis, a dangerous infection that had spread through my abdominal cavity. I woke up 3 days later in the intensive care unit, with tubes everywhere and machines beeping around me. "You gave us quite a scare," Mark said, his eyes red from lack of sleep. He'd been there the whole time, Patricia told me later, refusing to leave even when security tried to enforce visiting hours. My parents came to visit once during those 3 weeks. Once. They stood awkwardly by my bed for 15 minutes while Mom complained about the hospital parking fees and Dad checked his phone constantly. "We're just so busy with Tyler's big event," Mom had explained. "This is really important for his future. You understand, don't you, sweetie? You've got Mark here, and all these nurses are your friends. Tyler needs us more right now." Sarah, one of the day shift nurses, mentioned something odd during my 2nd week. "I saw your parents downstairs yesterday," she'd said while changing my IV bag. "They were coming out of the hospital's business office. They were with some man in a suit, and your mom was signing papers. They went into that little jewelry appraisal office next to the gift shop." I'd pushed the conversation out of my mind at the time, too sick to process what it might mean. The pain medication made everything feel fuzzy and unreal anyway. Besides, why would my parents be at a jewelry appraiser? They didn't own anything worth appraising. But as I stood in my childhood home that day, finally released from the hospital, staring at my naked ring finger, Sarah's words came rushing back with horrible clarity. The small detail I'd dismissed in my morphine haze suddenly became the central point around which everything else would revolve. My parents had visited me once in 3 weeks while I fought for my life, but they'd had time to visit a jewelry appraiser in the hospital. And now, as the reality set in, I realized that while I was fighting sepsis, while machines were breathing for me, while Mark was sleeping in hospital chairs and praying I'd wake up, my family had been planning something unthinkable. The ring that symbolized Mark's love and his family's history was gone, and with it, any illusion I'd had about my parents' love for me. Mark kept his hand on my lower back as we walked up to my parents' house, supporting me as I still felt weak from the extended hospital stay. The first thing I noticed was the BMW Series 5 sedan in the driveway, metallic blue with dealer plates still on it. My parents had driven the same Toyota Camry for 12 years, always complaining about car payments being a waste of money. "Whose car?" I'd asked Mark, and he'd shrugged, looking as confused as I felt. Inside, the house looked like a tornado of celebration had torn through it. Not just party decorations, but the expensive kind. Professional-grade speakers were stacked in the corner of the living room. Empty bottles of champagne, the real stuff from France, not the California sparkling wine my parents usually bought for New Year's Eve, littered every surface. Gold and black balloons still clung to the ceiling, and a banner reading Tyler's time to shine hung across the entrance to the dining room. Tyler was sprawled on a leather sectional sofa that definitely hadn't been there during my last Sunday dinner visit. The TV it faced was enormous, at least 75 inches, and he was playing some shooting game on a PlayStation 5 with a virtual reality headset beside him. Equipment that must have cost thousands of dollars, all clearly brand new. "Hey sis," he said without looking up from his game. "Glad you're feeling better. How was the hospital food?" "Tyler," I said slowly, still taking in the transformation of my childhood home. "What is all this?" "Just some upgrades," he said casually. The party was epic, by the way. You should have seen it. I had investors from all over Northern California here. "This is it, Angelica. This is my moment. Party planning is my calling. I mean, look at what I pulled off here." I walked past him, Mark still supporting me, heading to my old bedroom where I'd stored some important things when I'd moved in with Mark 6 months ago. Except when I opened the door, my childhood bedroom was gone. In its place was what looked like a professional recording studio. Multiple monitors, a high-end computer tower with LED lights, professional microphones, acoustic panels on the walls, and streaming equipment I recognized from watching gaming channels with Mark's teenage nephew. "Tyler," I called out, my voice shaking. "What happened to my room? Where are my things?" "Oh, Mom moved all your old stuff to the garage," he called back. "I needed a proper space for my content creation. It's part of the business model. Party planning and social media influence go hand in hand these days. My jewelry box. My grandmother's jewelry box that she'd given me when I turned 16, where I'd carefully placed Mark's grandmother's ring before leaving for the hospital. I'd thought it would be safer here than in our apartment while I was having surgery. Mark had offered to keep it in his safe, but I'd insisted it would be fine. After all, this was my parents' house. It should have been the safest place in the world. I practically ran to the garage, Mark hurrying behind me. Boxes were stacked haphazardly, many of them water damaged from being placed directly on the concrete floor. I tore through them, finding my high school yearbooks, my nursing school textbooks, photo albums, but no jewelry box. "Mom," I called out, walking back into the house where she'd appeared from the kitchen, wearing what looked like a new designer dress. "Where's my jewelry box? The wooden one from Grandma?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, that old thing? We had to consolidate some items, sweetie. Your ring is fine, though. We took good care of it." "What do you mean you took good care of it?" My heart was starting to pound in a way that had nothing to do with my recent surgery. "Where is it?" Mom exchanged a look with Dad, who had just come in from the backyard where he'd been admiring what appeared to be a new professional-grade barbecue grill. "Well," Mom said, stretching out the word like she was about to explain something to a child, "Tyler's investment party was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He needed to show these potential partners that he could create something spectacular, something worthy of their investment. The party planner he wanted to hire wanted $20,000 up front, which was ridiculous, so Tyler decided to plan it himself to show his skills. But that still required money," Dad added, as if this was all perfectly reasonable. "Venues, catering, entertainment, decorations. You can't make a good impression with cheap stuff." "We used your ring as collateral," Mom said, and for a moment I thought maybe I'd misheard her. Maybe the pain medication was still affecting my hearing. "You used my engagement ring as collateral?" I repeated slowly. "Well, actually," Tyler chimed in from the couch, "they sold it. The pawn shop wouldn't do collateral for the full amount we needed." The room started spinning. Mark's hand tightened on my shoulder, and I could feel the tension radiating from him. "You sold my engagement ring?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "My $15,000 engagement ring? A family heirloom? You sold it while I was in the intensive care unit?" "Don't be so dramatic," Mom said, rolling her eyes. "You were being taken care of by the best doctors. What were we supposed to do? Sit by your bedside and miss Tyler's opportunity? Besides, thanks to your ring, your brother finally got what he deserved. His party was the talk of Sacramento. 3 potential investors showed serious interest." "How much did the party cost?" Mark spoke for the first time, his voice dangerously quiet. Tyler sat up, finally pausing his game. "About $30,000 all in. But you have to spend money to make money, right? The ring covered half, and Mom and Dad figured out the rest." "Figured out the rest how?" I asked, though I was already afraid of the answer. "Your emergency fund," Dad said matter-of-factly. "We're still co-signers on that account from when you were 17. We kept meaning to take ourselves off, but it's a good thing we didn't, right? This was definitely an emergency." "My emergency fund. $10,000 I'd saved over 6 years for exactly what had just happened to me. A medical emergency. Money that was supposed to cover expenses if I couldn't work, which I couldn't for at least another month, according to Dr. Santos." "And the other $5,000? Mark's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitching. "Credit," Mom said breezily. "In Angelica's name. Her credit is so much better than ours, and we'll pay it back as soon as Tyler's business takes off." I sank into the nearest chair, which happened to be a new ergonomic gaming chair that probably cost more than my monthly rent. They'd stolen from me. While I was fighting sepsis, while machines were breathing for me, my family had been systematically robbing me. "The investors," I managed to ask. "These serious potential partners, who were they?" Tyler had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. "Well, they're still thinking about it. Jim from my high school football team is really interested. He's got some money from his dad's construction business, and Mike and Steve said they'd definitely consider it once they see a business plan." "Your high school friends," I said flatly. "You threw a $30,000 party for your high school friends." Just then, the front door opened, and in walked a young woman I'd never seen before. She was blonde, early 20s, wearing what looked like thousands of dollars in designer clothes, and I noticed with a sick feeling my grandmother's pearl necklace around her neck. "Babe," she said to Tyler, "I'm heading to the mall. Can I borrow your car?" "Sure, Brittany," Tyler said, tossing her the keys to what I now assumed was the new BMW. "Take the Beamer. Just be back by dinner." Brittany walked over and kissed Tyler, and that's when I saw the brooch on her jacket. My great-aunt's emerald brooch, the one she'd brought from Ireland in 1946. The one she'd given me before she died, with explicit instructions that it stays in the family. "That's my brooch," I said, standing up despite the pain in my abdomen. "That's my jewelry." Brittany looked confused. "No, Tyler gave me these. He said they were family pieces he inherited from his grandmother." "Our grandmother is still alive," I said, "and those were given to me by our great-aunt. I have the will that specifically names me." "Baby?" Brittany looked at Tyler with wide eyes. "You said your grandmother died last year and left you these because you were her favorite." Tyler's face flushed red. "It's complicated, Britt. Family stuff. Don't worry about it." "It's not complicated," I said, my voice rising. "You stole from me. You all stole from me while I was literally on my potential deathbed. My ring, my savings, my credit, and now my inherited jewelry? Don't be so selfish," Mom said sharply. "Those pearls look better on someone who actually goes places where people will see them. When do you ever dress up? You wear scrubs every day." I looked at each of their faces. My mother, irritated that I was making a scene. My father, checking his phone like this, was boring him. Tyler, annoyed that his gaming and girlfriend time was being interrupted. And Brittany, slowly realizing she was wearing stolen jewelry. This wasn't a family that had made a desperate decision in a moment of crisis. This was calculated, deliberate, and cruel. They'd planned this, executed it while I was at my most vulnerable, and now they were angry at me for not being grateful. The betrayal cut deeper than any surgical incision ever could. Mark was already on the phone with his lawyer before we even reached the car. I could hear him speaking in clipped, furious tones as I stood in my parents' driveway, still processing everything that had just happened. Brittany had quickly removed my jewelry and handed it to me, muttering apologies before practically running to the BMW and speeding away. The look of disgust she'd given Tyler suggested their relationship wouldn't survive the day. "Get back in here right now," Mom commanded from the doorway. "You're making a scene in front of the neighbors." I turned to face her, and for the first time in my 28 years, I didn't feel the automatic need to obey. "I'm making a scene? You stole from your daughter while she was in intensive care, and I'm the one making a scene?" "We didn't steal anything," Dad said, joining Mom in the doorway. "We're family. Family shares resources. You've been selfish your whole life, hoarding money while your brother struggled." "Hoarding?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I've given Tyler over $20,000 in the last 5 years. I've never been paid back a cent." "You never asked for it back," Tyler said, appearing behind our parents. "I thought they were gifts." "You thought the rent money I paid when you were about to be evicted was a gift? The car I bought you after you totaled yours driving drunk was a gift?" "I wasn't drunk," Tyler protested. "I was just tired." "The police report says otherwise," Mark said, getting out of the car. "Blood alcohol content of 0.12. I looked it up after Angelica told me about it." "You should have been in jail, but somehow the charges got dropped." "Dad knows a guy," Tyler said with a shrug, as if that explained everything. We followed them inside, Mark keeping his hand protectively on my back. Once in the living room, surrounded by the evidence of their spending spree, Mom launched into what was clearly a prepared speech. "Angelica, you've always been jealous of Tyler. Ever since he was born, you've resented the attention he got. You worked so hard in school, became a nurse, got engaged to Mark here, all to try to compete with your brother's natural charisma and potential. Are you seriously trying to gaslight me right now?" I asked, incredulous. "This is about family loyalty. Tyler needed this party to launch his business. You had a ring you never even wore sitting in a box. It was wasteful." "I was in the hospital," I said slowly. "I wasn't wearing it because I was having surgery." "For 3 weeks, though?" Dad chimed in. "Come on, Angelica. You were milking it for attention. Appendicitis doesn't take 3 weeks to recover from." "My appendix ruptured," I said through gritted teeth. "I had peritonitis. I could have died." "Doctors always exaggerate," Tyler said, settling back into the new couch, "just like nurses do. No offense, sis, but you always make your job sound way more important than it is." You give kids medicine and take temperatures. It's not rocket science. Before I could respond, Mark stepped forward. I've just spoken with my lawyer. What you've done is fraud, theft, and identity theft with the credit card. We're pressing charges. The room went silent for a moment, then Mom laughed. You're going to have your fiancé's family arrested? How's that going to look at your wedding? Oh wait, you can't have a wedding without a ring, can you? About that ring, Mark said, and I saw a smile play at the corner of his mouth. How much did you get for it? 15,000, Dad said proudly. I negotiated myself. The pawn shop owner tried to lowball us, but I stood firm. Really? Mark pulled out his phone. Because Sam from Golden Loan just sent me this receipt. Shows here you got $500 for a replica ring made of sterling silver and cubic zirconia. The color drained from Mom's face. That's impossible. The appraisal said 15,000. The appraisal for the real ring said 15,000, Mark corrected. The one that's been in my safety deposit box for the last 6 months. After our apartment was broken into last year, I had a replica made for insurance purposes. I switched them before Angelica's surgery because, well, call it a gut feeling, but I didn't trust leaving the real one here. Tyler sat up so fast he knocked over a champagne bottle. You're lying. The receipt doesn't lie, Mark said, showing his phone screen. $500. But interesting that you thought you got 15,000, Tyler. Mom and Dad, how much did you tell Tyler the ring sold for? 5,000, Tyler said slowly, turning to look at our parents. You said the pawn shop would only give us 5,000 because it was used. So you kept 10,000 for yourselves? I asked, though I wasn't really surprised anymore. You stole from Tyler while stealing from me? We had expenses, Mom said defensively. The BMW down payment, some bills that were overdue. The BMW is in your name? Tyler's face was turning red. You said it was a company car for my business. It will be, Dad said quickly, once the business is profitable. You told me we were all making sacrifices for my future, Tyler said, real anger in his voice for the first time. You said Angelica would understand because she's successful and I needed this more. She does need to understand, Mom insisted. She's got Mark, she's got a job, she's got everything. You needed this boost. Remember my college fund? I asked, my voice getting stronger. $50,000 Grandma Elizabeth set aside specifically for my education? Where did that go? Silence filled the room. Tyler's music career? I answered for them. Recording studio time, equipment, promotion for an album that sold 12 copies. I had to take out student loans while Tyler spent my college money on auto-tune. Tyler looked genuinely shocked. You never told me that was your college fund. You said it was family money. Everything is family money to them when it benefits you, I said. My phone rang. It was my grandmother Elizabeth. I almost didn't answer, not wanting to deal with more family drama, but something made me pick up. Angelica, dear. Her voice was strong despite her 91 years. I've just had the most interesting conversation with my accountant. It seems someone has been trying to access your trust fund. The one I set up that you're not supposed to know about until my passing. Someone claiming to be you called asking about early withdrawal penalties. I put her on speaker. Grandma, I'm here with Mom, Dad, Tyler, and Mark. Good, she said sharply. Then they can all hear this. Jennifer, Robert, did you really think I was senile? Did you think I wouldn't notice you've been telling me Angelica lives with you rent-free while collecting rent from her for storage? $800 a month for 3 years. That's nearly $30,000 you've stolen from your daughter. The room went completely silent. Oh, yes, Grandma continued. I know all about it. I also know about the loans you've tried to take out against Angelica's inheritance. The inheritance you're not supposed to know about. But Robert, your friend at the bank, the one who helped you check? He's also my friend. Has been for 40 years. He tells me everything. Mother, Mom started. But Grandma cut her off. I'm not your mother, Jennifer. I'm Robert's mother, and I'm ashamed to call him my son. I've been documenting everything for years. Every lie, every theft, every manipulation. Did you know I own the house you're living in? Not you, me. I let you live there rent-free to help you raise your family, and this is how you repay my generosity? Grandma, Tyler said weakly. We didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked, Tyler. Too busy taking and never giving to notice anything beyond your own wants. Your sister nearly died, and you couldn't even visit her? But you had time to help your parents rob her? You've been stealing rent from me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. For 3 years? Mom lifted her chin defiantly. We deserved compensation for storing your things. And Grandma owns this house? Tyler asked, looking around as if seeing it for the first time. She's confused, Dad said quickly. Early dementia. She sounded pretty clear to me, I said, standing up. I turned to Tyler. Did you know? About the rent, the trust fund, any of it? He shook his head, looking genuinely shocked. I thought we were struggling. That's why we needed your ring. They've been stealing from both of us, I said, using your name to manipulate me, using my success to fund their lifestyle while keeping you dependent. Tyler's phone rang. It was Brittany, he answered, and we could all hear her voice. I'm done, Tyler. Your family is sick. That nurse, your sister, the whole hospital knows her. She saved my cousin's kid 2 years ago. Stayed 16 hours straight during her shift to make sure he pulled through. And you all left her to die while stealing from her? Don't ever contact me again. She hung up. Tyler stood there, phone in hand, looking lost. This is your fault, Mom turned on me. You've ruined everything with your selfishness. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was thinking about all the times I'd doubted myself, wondered if I was being too harsh, all the guilt they'd made me feel for having any success while Tyler struggled, all the manipulation disguised as love. The truth was finally clear, and it was devastating. Mark drove us home in silence for the first few minutes, my mind still reeling from everything that had been revealed. Then his phone, connected to the car's Bluetooth, rang. It was Sam from the pawn shop. Mark, I've got some more information for you. Sam's voice filled the car. Can Angelica hear me? I'm here, Sam, I said, though we'd never met. First, let me say I'm sorry about what you've been through. I heard about your hospital stay from my wife. She's a respiratory therapist at Sacramento General. The whole medical staff was talking about the nurse who almost died from peritonitis. Thank you, I said, touched that strangers cared more than my family had. Now, about that ring, Sam continued. I knew it was fake the moment your parents brought it in. I've been doing this for 30 years, and Mark's firm designed our new storefront last year. I recognized the engagement ring from the company Christmas party. Mark had mentioned getting a replica made for insurance purposes. So, why did you give them $500 for it? Mark asked. Evidence, Sam said simply. I wanted a paper trail. Plus, I have everything on video. Your mom was very chatty, Angelica. She kept talking about how you wouldn't need the ring anyway, since you'd probably not survive the surgery. Her exact words were, she's too sick to get married anytime soon, and Tyler needs this opportunity now. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My own mother had essentially written me off as dying. There's more, Sam continued. Your father asked about life insurance policies, whether I knew anyone who could help them collect if something happened to you. I told them I didn't deal with that kind of thing, but I have it all on recording. They were planning for me to die? My voice came out strangled. It seems they were at least considering the financial benefits if you did, Sam said grimly. I've already sent everything to the email Mark provided. Oh, and one more thing. They weren't alone. Tyler was with them, and he's the one who originally brought up selling the ring. He said, and I quote, "She loves me more than anyone. She'd want me to have this chance, even if it meant selling her stupid ring." Mark thanked Sam and ended the call. We drove in silence for another moment before I started laughing. Not happy laughter, but the kind that comes when reality becomes too absurd to process any other way. $500? I gasped between laughs. They destroyed our relationship for $500. They thought it was $15,000, Mark pointed out. No, Tyler thought it was $5,000. They told him $5,000 and kept the imaginary $10,000 for themselves. We pulled into our apartment complex, and Mark helped me inside. I was exhausted, but there was something I needed to know. The real ring, I said as we sat on our couch. It's really safe? Mark went to his home office and returned with a small key. Come with me tomorrow when you're feeling stronger, and I'll show you. It's in the safety deposit box along with some other important documents. What made you suspicious enough to switch them? I asked. Mark was quiet for a moment. Remember last Thanksgiving? Your mom kept asking about the ring's value, whether it was insured, where we kept it. Then at Christmas, Tyler made that joke about how one ring could fund 10 business startups. It wasn't really a joke, was it? I guess not, I said, leaning against him. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of a receipt from a high-end restaurant, dated the night I had surgery. The bill was over $800, paid with a credit card in my name. Another text followed, this one a receipt from a luxury car rental, also in my name, dated the day after I went into the intensive care unit. They were celebrating, I said, showing Mark the receipts. While I was on a ventilator, they were having a celebration dinner. Mark's phone rang. It was his lawyer, Patricia Winters. I've reviewed the security footage and documents Sam sent, she said when Mark put her on speaker. This is extensive fraud. The credit cards alone put this into felony territory. The forgery, the identity theft, the conspiracy to commit fraud. Your parents are looking at serious jail time if convicted. What about Tyler? I asked. That's more complicated. He was clearly involved, but it seems your parents manipulated him too. The fact that they lied about how much they got for the ring shows they were defrauding him as well. A good prosecutor might offer him a deal to testify against them. I don't want Tyler to go to jail, I said, surprising myself. He's been enabled his whole life. He never learned consequences. We can discuss plea deals later, Patricia said. For now, I need you to gather all your financial documents. After she hung up, I opened my laptop to check my credit report. What I found made my blood run cold. There were 7 credit cards in my name I didn't recognize, all maxed out. Total debt, $43,000. There were also 2 personal loans, one for $15,000 and another for $10,000. $68,000, I whispered. They've put me $68,000 in debt. Mark looked over my shoulder at the screen. When did these accounts get opened? I checked the dates. The first one was opened 3 years ago, right when I started paying them rent for storage. The most recent was opened the day I went into the hospital. My phone rang. It was Tyler. Don't hang up, he said quickly. I'm in my car. I left the house. I need to tell you something. What? I asked. Too tired to fight anymore. There were no investors. The party wasn't for business. It was to pay off my debts. I owe some bad people money. Gambling debts. Mom and Dad know. The party was their idea to make it look legitimate, but the money went straight to paying off what I owed. How much do you owe? Owed. Past tense. $30,000. If I didn't pay, they were going to hurt me. Maybe worse. Mom said your ring was the only way to save my life. So they emotionally manipulated you into agreeing to steal from me? No, Tyler said quietly. I mean, yes, but I could have said no. I should have said no. I've been thinking about what Brittany said. You saved her cousin's kid. You save people every day. And when you were dying, I helped steal from you. What kind of person does that make me? I don't know, Tyler. What kind of person do you want to be? There was a long pause. Not this one. Angelica, there's more. The house? Grandma's right. She owns it. I've seen the documents. Mom and Dad have been planning to forge her signature to transfer it to their names. They have a lawyer friend who said he could backdate documents. They're planning to claim she has dementia. Tyler, that's elder abuse. That's serious federal crime territory. I know. I'm going to the police tomorrow. I have copies of everything. Documents, recordings I made of them discussing it. I started recording them a month ago when I realized something was really wrong. Why help me now? I asked. Because for the first time in my life, I'm seeing clearly. They didn't just steal from you, Angelica. They stole my future too. Every time they bailed me out, they made me weaker. I'm 25 years old and I can't even make a resume because I've never actually accomplished anything. You were dying and my biggest concern was a party. That's not who I want to be. Where are you going to go? I asked. Mark's parents, he said, surprising me. I called them. Your future mother-in-law is kind of amazing. She said anyone who wants to change deserves a chance. She's got a friend who runs a construction company who'll give me a job. Real work. Starting at the bottom. Tyler. I started, but he cut me off. I'm going to pay you back. Every cent. It'll take years, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to testify against Mom and Dad. They need to face consequences, and so do I. He hung up, leaving Mark and me staring at each other. My phone buzzed with an email from Patricia Winters. The subject line read, "Urgent. Check your life insurance policies." I opened it with trembling fingers. Patricia had done some digging. There were 3 life insurance policies on me I didn't know about, each worth $500,000. The beneficiaries, Jennifer and Robert, with Tyler as secondary. They'd been paying the premiums from my rent money. $1.5 million they'd collect if I died. They were planning for me to die, I said, the reality finally sinking in. Mark pulled me close. But you didn't. You're here, you're alive, and we're going to make them pay for everything they've done. The ring, I said suddenly. Why did you really switch it? Mark was quiet for a moment. Your grandmother called me. 2 days before your surgery. She told me about the insurance policies. She'd been tracking unusual activity on your credit for months. She suspected something might happen if you were ever vulnerable. She asked me to protect you and the ring. Grandma knew? She's known for years who your parents really are. She's been documenting everything, waiting for the right moment to protect you. She has investigators, lawyers, accountants. Your grandmother isn't just comfortable, Angelica. She's worth about $18 million from your grandfather's patents. I thought about my sweet grandmother in her modest room at the assisted living facility, playing cards with the other residents, never giving any indication of wealth. She's been playing them, I realized, letting them think she's a helpless old woman while documenting their crimes. Your grandmother is a force of nature, Mark agreed, and she loves you more than anything. As I sat there, surrounded by evidence of my family's betrayal, holding my grandmother's jewelry that Brittany had returned, with my fiancé beside me and my brother finally choosing to do the right thing, I realized something profound. The fake ring had revealed everything fake in my life. And in losing what I thought was real, I was finding what actually was. The next morning, despite still feeling weak from my recovery, I sat in the office of Patricia Winters, Mark's lawyer. She was a formidable woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. Spread across her conference table were documents that painted a picture of systematic fraud going back years. This is bigger than we initially thought, Patricia said, adjusting her glasses. I've brought in a private investigator, James Mitchell, who specializes in financial fraud. James? A man in his 40s with prematurely gray hair pulled out a tablet. Miss Angelica, what I've uncovered goes beyond simple theft. Your parents have been running what amounts to a long-term con game with you as the primary mark. He swiped through documents on his tablet, projecting them onto a screen. Let's start with the credit cards. The first one was opened when you were 25, right after you got your nursing job. They used a change of address form to redirect that specific mail to a post office box. Every card since then has followed the same pattern. But wouldn't I see these on my credit report? I asked. You would, if you were looking at the complete report. They've been monitoring when you check your credit and temporarily freezing the fraudulent accounts so they don't appear. Your father's friend at the bank has been helping with that. Mark squeezed my hand as James continued. Now, about the gambling debts. Tyler wasn't lying about owing $30,000, but he wasn't telling the complete truth either. The debts were real, but they were from online gambling using accounts in your name. Your parents set them up, gave Tyler the passwords, and let him rack up debt that legally falls on you. So, even the gambling was fraud? I felt sick. Every bit of it. But here's where it gets interesting. The party? It did cost $30,000, but look at these invoices. He pulled up receipts on the screen. The catering company is owned by your mother's cousin. The DJ service is registered to your father's brother. The venue rental went to a property management company that your parents have a stake in. They essentially paid themselves. Patricia leaned forward. They were laundering the stolen money through family businesses, making it look legitimate while keeping it in the family. What about the BMW? I asked. James smiled grimly. Leased, not bought, in your name, of course. The lease payments are $800 a month, exactly what they've been collecting from you in storage fees. You're literally paying for the car they're driving. The door opened, and my grandmother walked in, moving slowly but with dignity. Behind her was a distinguished elderly man in an expensive suit. Grandma, I said, standing to help her to a chair. Sit down, dear. You're still recovering. She turned to the others. This is Harold Morrison, my attorney for the last 40 years. Harold opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Elizabeth has been preparing for this moment for quite some time. We have documented evidence of financial elder abuse going back 15 years. He laid out document after document. Your parents have been claiming Elizabeth as a dependent on their taxes while she files her own. They've been collecting disability payments in her name that she never applied for. They've been billing Medicare for home health services that were never provided. The fraud against the government alone is worth several $100,000. Several $100,000? I echoed, stunned. Your grandmother has been letting them dig their own grave, Harold said with a slight smile. Every crime documented, every piece of evidence preserved. She wanted to protect you, but she needed to wait until you were ready to see the truth. Grandma reached over and took my hand. I'm sorry, dear. I wanted to tell you so many times, but you loved them. You kept hoping they'd change. I had to wait until you were ready to accept who they really are. The house, I said. Tyler said you own it. I own several properties, Grandma said. That house, 2 rental properties in Folsom, a vacation home in Lake Tahoe, and commercial real estate in downtown Sacramento. Your parents have been telling people they own these properties and have been trying to take out loans against them. Harold pulled out another document. 3 days ago, they met with a lawyer about having Elizabeth declared incompetent. They've created fake medical records, forged doctors' signatures, and even paid an actor to pose as a psychiatrist for a video consultation. That's conspiracy to commit elder abuse, Patricia said, taking notes rapidly. With the federal fraud charges from the Medicare billing, they're looking at 20 years minimum. Tyler walked in then, looking haggard but determined. He was followed by 2 FBI agents. These are Agents Sarah Coleman and David Park, Tyler said. I went to them this morning with everything I had. Agent Coleman, a woman in her 30s with a no-nonsense demeanor, stepped forward. Mr. Tyler has been extremely cooperative. He's provided us with recordings, documents, and access to email accounts that show a pattern of criminal conspiracy. She pulled out her own tablet. What we're most interested in is the Medicare fraud and the conspiracy to commit elder abuse. These are federal crimes. But during our initial investigation, we've uncovered something else. Agent Park took over. Your father has been embezzling from his company for the past 7 years. Small amounts at first, but increasing over time. Total theft. Approximately $540,000. 500. I couldn't even finish the sentence. He's been using his position to approve fraudulent invoices from shell companies he controls, Agent Park continued. The same shell companies they used for Tyler's party. Your mother has been receiving payments as a consultant for services never rendered. Tyler spoke up, his voice rough. I didn't know about the embezzlement until yesterday. When I confronted them about selling the fake ring, Dad got drunk and started bragging about how clever he'd been, how he'd been setting aside money for years for when they could finally get rid of you and Grandma and live the life they deserved. Get rid of us? I asked, my blood running cold. Agent Coleman's face was grim. We found searches on your father's computer for accidental overdoses, undetectable poisons, and making deaths look natural. All dated from the week before your surgery. The room went completely silent. Even Patricia, who'd probably seen everything in her career, looked shocked. They were planning to kill us? I whispered. We can't prove intent to commit murder, Agent Coleman said carefully. But combined with the life insurance policies and the timing of the searches, it's deeply concerning. Grandma spoke up, her voice steel. I've been very careful about what I eat and drink when they're around. I have my food tested regularly. Yes, I'm that paranoid, and apparently with good reason. Harold added. We've also discovered they've been adding small amounts of sleeping medication to Elizabeth's tea when they visit. Not enough to cause serious harm, but enough to make her seem confused and disoriented. We have the tea bags they brought her, tested by a laboratory. That's attempted murder, Patricia said flatly. Or at least assault with intent to cause harm. Agent Park nodded. We agree. With Mr. Tyler's cooperation and the evidence we've gathered, we have enough to arrest them today. Tyler looked at me, tears in his eyes. I know sorry isn't enough. I know I can never make this right. But when they started talking about hurting Grandma, about how she'd had a good run, I knew I had to act. I might be weak and selfish, but I'm not a murderer. You're not going to be charged? I asked him. Agent Coleman shook her head. He's agreed to full cooperation, including wearing a wire for the last conversation with your parents. He's also agreed to pay full restitution for any fraud he personally benefited from. Given his limited actual involvement and his cooperation, the prosecutor is willing to offer him probation with community service. 1,500 hours of community service, Tyler added. And I have to get a job and pay back everything. Mark's parents already got me hired with their friend's construction company. I start Monday. There's one more thing, James, the private investigator said. The ring situation? Your parents didn't just try to sell your ring. They've been stealing and selling jewelry from estate sales they attend, claiming to be appraisers. We have victims in 3 counties. Patricia stood up. So we have federal fraud, elder abuse, attempted murder, embezzlement, identity theft, forgery, and conspiracy to commit multiple crimes. Your parents aren't just facing jail time. They're facing the rest of their lives in federal prison. My phone buzzed. It was Mom, texting me. Stop this nonsense right now and come home. We're having a family meeting to discuss how you're going to fix the mess you've created. Agent Coleman looked at the message. Perfect. We were hoping they'd reach out. Tyler, are you ready? Tyler nodded, and Agent Park fitted him with a tiny recording device. Go to the meeting, Agent Coleman instructed. Let them talk. The more they say, the better. We'll be right outside. As everyone prepared to leave, Grandma pulled me aside. I need to tell you something. The reason I have so much money? Your grandfather didn't just have patents. He invented 3 of the key components used in modern pacemakers. The royalties have been growing for 30 years. When I die, it's all going to you. Nothing to them, nothing to Tyler, unless he truly changes. About $18 million. Grandma, I don't care about the money. I know you don't, dear. That's why you deserve it. But they care. They've been planning for years how to get it. The house they live in, I'm evicting them tomorrow. The FBI will arrest them today, but if they make bail, they'll have nowhere to go. As we walked out of the office, Mark wrapped his arm around me. How are you holding up? I feel like I'm in a nightmare, I admitted. My parents were planning to kill me and my grandmother for money. Greed, Patricia said, overhearing. Pure, simple greed. It starts small and grows until they convince themselves they deserve what you have. Tyler was already in his car, ready to drive to the house. The FBI agents were in unmarked vehicles. Patricia, Mark, and I would wait at the FBI field office to watch the feed from Tyler's wire. Angelica, Tyler said through his car window. Whatever happens in there, I want you to know that you were the only real family I ever had. You actually loved me. They just used me. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be someone worthy of being your brother. As he drove away, followed discreetly by federal agents, I thought about family. Blood makes you related, but it doesn't make you family. Family is about choice, about choosing to love and protect each other. My parents had made their choice. Now they would face the consequences. We sat in a small viewing room at the FBI field office, watching multiple screens showing different angles from hidden cameras the agents had set up. Tyler's wire was crystal clear as he walked into my parents' house. Finally, Mom's voice came through the speakers. At least one of our children still has sense. Where's your sister? She's not coming, Tyler said. She's done with you. Don't be ridiculous, Dad said. She's just being dramatic. Once she calms down, she'll realize she's being selfish. On the screen, we could see my parents in their living room, surrounded by their ill-gotten gains. Mom was wearing new designer clothes and jewelry I didn't recognize. Dad was pouring himself a drink from a bottle of scotch that probably cost more than most people's rent. "We need to discuss damage control," Mom said, settling into the new leather couch. "Your sister has gotten some lawyer involved, making threats. We need to present a united front." "United front for what?" Tyler asked. "To protect this family," Dad said firmly. "Your sister is trying to destroy everything we've built." "What exactly have you built?" Tyler asked. "This house belongs to Grandma. The cars are in Angelica's name. Everything here was bought with stolen money." Mom's face darkened. "Stolen? We're her parents. We gave her life. Everything she has is because of us. We're just collecting what we're owed." "Owed for what?" "For raising her," Dad said, as if it was obvious. "Do you know how much it costs to raise a child? She owes us at least $500,000 for her upbringing." Agent Coleman, sitting next to me, shook her head. "That's not how parenting works." On screen, Tyler was pacing. "What about me? Do I owe you too?" "Don't be silly," Mom said. "You're different. You have potential." Angelica was always just ordinary. A boring little girl who became a boring adult. No personality, no charm, nothing special about her. I felt Mark's hand tighten on mine, his anger palpable. "But she saves lives," Tyler said quietly. Dad laughed. "So what? Thousands of nurses do the same thing every day. It's not special. Now you, Tyler, you're meant for greatness. Once we get our hands on your grandmother's money, we can really invest in your future." "Grandma's money," Tyler repeated. "How are you planning to get that?" Mom smiled, and it was chilling. "Your grandmother is getting old, confused. She's been showing signs of dementia. We've documented everything. Soon we'll have power of attorney, and then we can make sure her assets are properly managed." "You mean stolen," Tyler said flatly. "We're protecting family assets. That money should have been ours anyway. Your grandmother has been selfish, hoarding wealth while we struggled." "Struggled? You make a combined $120,000 a year." "It's not enough," Mom said, her voice rising. "Do you know what Jennifer Martinez from my book club has? Her husband makes 3 times what your father does. She has a house in Granite Bay, a vacation home, a boat. Do you know how humiliating it is?" "So, you stole from your daughter because you were jealous of Jennifer Martinez?" "We borrowed from family resources," Dad corrected. "And speaking of Angelica, we need to discuss what happens if she doesn't back down from this lawyer nonsense." Mom leaned forward conspiratorially. "She's still weak from her surgery. Complications can happen during recovery. Sometimes people don't follow their medication instructions properly. They take too much pain medicine." My blood ran cold. Agent Coleman was already on her radio, preparing backup teams. "What are you saying?" Tyler asked, his voice barely steady. "I'm saying accidents happen," Mom said casually. "Especially to people who are already weakened. And with her history of that severe infection, who would question if she had a relapse?" "You're talking about killing her," Tyler said flatly. "We're talking about possibilities, natural consequences. She's made her choice to turn against family. Choices have consequences." "Like Grandma's choices?" Tyler pressed. Dad's face darkened. "Your grandmother should have died years ago. She's 91 for God's sake. She's being selfish, hanging on, keeping that money from us." "We've been patient," Mom added. "The tea we bring her helps her sleep. Eventually, she'll sleep a little too deeply. These things happen with the elderly." "You've been poisoning her." "Helping her rest," Mom corrected. "But if she needs more help, well, we're her family. We'll make sure she's comfortable in her final days." Agent Coleman stood up. "That's enough. We have conspiracy to commit murder. Move in." On screen, Tyler stood up. "I need some air." "Where are you going?" Dad demanded. "Just outside. This is a lot to process." "You better process it right," Mom called after him. "You're either with us or against us, Tyler. And you've seen what happens to family members who are against us." Tyler walked outside, and within seconds, FBI agents swarmed the house. We could hear the shouting on the wire. "FBI, Search warrant. Get on the ground. Mom's scream was piercing. What is this? Tyler! Tyler! What did you do? Jennifer Roberts. Robert Roberts. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, elder abuse, fraud, embezzlement, and multiple other federal charges. This is a mistake, Dad was shouting. We want a lawyer. Tyler, you little traitor. You're dead to us. I was already dead to you. Tyler's voice came through clearly. The only value I had was as a weapon against Angelica. You never loved either of us. You only loved what you could take from us. The feed cut as the agents led them away. Agent Coleman turned to me. We have enough to ensure they never get out. The conspiracy to commit murder alone is 25 years to life. Tyler appeared on one of the screens, being escorted by an agent, but not in handcuffs. He looked directly at a camera, knowing we were watching. Angelica, if you're watching, I meant what I said. They're dead to me. You're my only family now if you'll have me. Mark spoke for the first time in an hour. He did good. That took courage. Patricia Winters stood up. I'll start filing the civil suits immediately. We'll recover every penny they stole. The house will be returned to your grandmother immediately. All the fraudulent accounts will be cleared from your credit. Grandma, who had been quietly watching everything, finally spoke. They were never my family. Robert stopped being my son the day he chose greed over love. But Tyler might still have a chance. She turned to me. What do you think, dear? Can you forgive your brother? I thought about it. Tyler had participated in the theft, but he'd also been manipulated his entire life. He'd been raised to believe he was entitled to everything while being given no tools to earn anything. And when it mattered most, when lives were literally on the line, he'd chosen to do the right thing. Forgiveness will take time, I said finally. But I'm willing to try. He's willing to change, and that's more than they ever were. 3 hours later, we were at the house, now crawling with FBI agents cataloging evidence. Mom and Dad were being held without bail, deemed flight risks and dangers to society. Tyler was there too, helping the agents identify which items were bought with stolen money. This is all of it, he said, gesturing around the room. Everything from the last 3 years. The furniture, the electronics, the cars, even most of the clothes. They bought nothing with their own money. An agent pulled me aside. We found something you should see. He handed me a notebook. It was Mom's handwriting, a detailed plan of how to get Grandma's money. It started 5 years ago, with small thefts and built up to murder. My name was there too, with notes about my life insurance and how to make an overdose look accidental. They never loved us, I said to Tyler, who was reading over my shoulder. No, he agreed. We were just means to an end. Dollar signs in their sick fantasy of wealth. Mark's parents arrived then, having driven up from their home in Roseville. His mom, Patricia, a retired teacher, immediately pulled Tyler into a hug. You did the right thing, she said firmly. It was hard, but you did it. That takes real character. His dad, James, a contractor, shook Tyler's hand. You start work Monday, 6 a.m. sharp. It's going to be hard work, but honest work. You up for it? Yes, sir, Tyler said. And for the first time in years, I saw genuine determination in his eyes. As we stood in that house of lies, surrounded by evidence of betrayal, I realized something. The family I'd grown up with was gone, had maybe never really existed, but from its ashes, something new was growing. Tyler, finally free from our parents' toxic influence, trying to become a better man. Grandma, no longer having to pretend to be weak to protect herself. Mark's family, opening their arms to someone who needed a second chance. And me? I was free. Free from the guilt, the manipulation, the constant drain on my resources and my spirit. The ring that started all this, the real one still safe in Mark's safety deposit box, had become a symbol not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd gained. Truth. Freedom. A chance at a real family based on love, not exploitation. Agent Coleman approached me one last time. Your parents will be transferred to federal custody tomorrow. Given the evidence, their lawyers are already talking plea deals. They're looking at minimum 25 years, probably more. Will I have to testify? Most likely not. The recordings and documents speak for themselves. Tyler's testimony will be enough if it goes to trial, but I doubt it will. They'll take a deal. As we prepared to leave, I took one last look around the house. Tomorrow, Grandma would have it cleaned out. She'd already decided to sell it and donate the proceeds to a charity for elder abuse victims. This place, which had been a stage for so much deception, would at least do some good in the end. "Ready to go home?" Mark asked, wrapping his arm around me. I looked at him, at his parents who were discussing Tyler's work schedule, at Tyler who was listening intently and taking notes, at Grandma who was directing FBI agents to hidden safes she knew about. "Yeah," I said, leaning into him. "Let's go home." 6 months later, I stood in a federal courtroom in Sacramento, watching as my parents were led in wearing orange jumpsuits and shackles. They looked smaller somehow, diminished without their stolen finery and false pretenses. The gallery was packed with journalists, victims of their other frauds, and curious onlookers who'd followed the case in the news. Judge Martha Chen, a woman in her 60s, with a reputation for tough sentences in fraud cases, took her seat and looked down at my parents with undisguised contempt. "Jennifer Roberts and Robert Roberts," she began. "You have pled guilty to 37 federal charges, including conspiracy to commit murder, elder abuse, wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Before I pass sentence, do you have anything to say?" Mom stood up, her lawyer beside her. For a moment, I thought maybe she'd finally show some remorse. Instead, she turned to look at me with pure hatred. "My daughter destroyed our family," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "We gave her everything, and she betrayed us for money. She's the criminal here, not us." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Roberts, your daughter was recovering from near-fatal peritonitis while you were stealing her engagement ring and planning her murder for insurance money. The only criminal I see is you." Dad stood up next. "Your Honor, we were just trying to provide for our family. Our daughter has always been selfish with her success." "Mr. Roberts," Judge Chen said coldly, "parents are obligated to raise their children. Children are not obligated to fund their parents' luxury lifestyle through identity theft and fraud." She shuffled some papers and continued. "I've reviewed the evidence, including the recordings of you planning to murder both your daughter and your mother-in-law for financial gain. In my 20 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such a complete betrayal of familial bonds. Jennifer Roberts, I sentence you to 32 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Robert Roberts, I sentence you to 35 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution of $2.3 million to your victims." Mom collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Dad just stared straight ahead, his face blank. They were led away without looking back, and I knew it was the last time I'd ever see them. Outside the courthouse, Tyler was waiting with Mark and his parents. He looked different now. 6 months of honest work had given him muscle and a tan. More importantly, he carried himself differently, with earned confidence instead of false bravado. "You okay?" he asked me quietly. "I'm free," I said, and meant it. We both are. 3 weeks later, we held the wedding in Grandma's backyard, the same house my parents had lived in but never owned. Grandma had given it to Mark and me as an early wedding present, saying she wanted to see us happy in it while she was still alive to enjoy our joy. The backyard had been transformed with twinkling lights and white roses. It wasn't the vineyard wedding we'd originally planned, but it was perfect. Small, intimate, with only the people who truly loved us. Tyler stood as one of Mark's groomsmen, having earned the position through 6 months of consistent change. He'd been working construction, attending therapy, and had even started community college part-time, paying his own way. He'd already paid back $8,000 of what he owed me and insisted on a payment plan for the rest. Grandma walked me down the aisle, still strong at 91, wearing a beautiful lavender dress and the biggest smile I'd ever seen on her face. "Your grandfather would be so proud," she whispered as we walked. "You broke the cycle, dear. You saved yourself and your brother." As Mark and I exchanged vows, I wore the real ring, his grandmother's ring, retrieved from the safety deposit box where it had been safe all along. But on my other hand, I wore a simple silicone band, the one I'd bought myself when I returned to work, a reminder that value isn't in the price of something but in what it represents. "I promise," Mark said, his voice strong and clear, "to stand by you through illness and health, through prosperity and hardship, through family trials and triumphs." "I promise," I replied, looking into his eyes, "to trust you with my whole heart, to build a family with you based on love and respect, to face whatever comes with courage and grace." When we kissed, the small gathering erupted in applause. Even some of my colleagues from the hospital had come, including Dr. Santos, who'd saved my life during that terrible infection. The reception was simple, but beautiful. No $30,000 party, no trying to impress anyone. Just good food, good music, and good people. Tyler gave a speech that had everyone in tears. "6 months ago, I was a parasite," he said bluntly. "I lived off my sister's kindness while helping our parents steal from her. Angelica nearly died, and my biggest concern was a party to pay off gambling debts." He paused, composing himself. "But Angelica did something our parents never did. She gave me a chance to change. Not forgiveness. I haven't earned that yet, but a chance. Mark's parents taught me the value of honest work. My sister taught me the meaning of real love." He raised his glass. "To Angelica and Mark. May your marriage be everything our family never was. Honest, loving, and real." Later, as the sun set, Grandma pulled me aside. "I have something for you." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $500,000. "Grandma, no, this is too much." "It's exactly right," she said firmly. "That's the amount your parents tried to collect in life insurance. Use it to start your life properly. Just promise me you'll never let anyone make you feel guilty for having it." A year has passed since that wedding day. I'm back at work full-time, promoted to head pediatric nurse. The children and families I work with don't know my story, but they know I fight for them with everything I have. Tyler has his own apartment now, small but honest. He's still in construction, promoted to crew leader, and taking night classes in business management. He's paid back $12,000 so far and texts me every month when he makes a payment, not for praise but for accountability. Mark and I converted one room of the house into a nursery. Not because we're expecting yet, but because we're hoping. We want to build the family we never had, one based on unconditional love and support. My parents are serving their sentences in separate federal prisons. I don't visit. I don't write. They're strangers to me now. Cautionary tales about how greed can corrupt even the most fundamental bonds. The fake ring? I kept it. It sits in a drawer, a reminder that sometimes what seems like the worst thing that can happen to you becomes your salvation. If my parents had sold the real ring, if they'd gotten the money they expected, the fraud might have continued for years. Grandma might have died from their poisoning. I might have died from a staged overdose. Instead, their greed exposed them. A $500 piece of costume jewelry brought down their entire house of cards. The fake revealed the fake, and in losing what I thought was real, I found what actually mattered. Tyler stops by every Sunday for dinner now. Last week, he brought a girlfriend, Sarah, a nursing student he met at community college. She's kind, grounded, and doesn't tolerate any of his old behaviors. When he started to exaggerate about his construction job, she called him out immediately, and he apologized, correcting himself. "It's progress." "Do you ever think about them?" Tyler asked me recently. "Sometimes," I admitted. "I think about how different life could have been if they'd just loved us for who we were instead of what they could take from us." "But then we wouldn't be who we are now," he pointed out. "You wouldn't be as strong. I wouldn't have learned to be better." He was right. Our parents' betrayal, as painful as it was, had forced us both to grow. Me into someone who knows her worth and won't let anyone diminish it. Tyler into someone who's learning to earn his place in the world. Grandma is 92 now and still sharp as ever. She comes for dinner twice a week, plays cards with her friends, and is writing her memoirs. She says she wants the world to know that it's never too late to stand up to abuse, that age doesn't mean weakness. "I could have exposed them years ago," she told me. "But I was waiting for you to be ready. You had to see it for yourself, had to choose your own freedom." She was right about that too. Seeing the evidence, hearing them plan our murders, watching them show no remorse even in court, I have no doubts. They were never my parents in any way that mattered. They were predators who happened to share DNA with their prey. But from that revelation came liberation. I found my true family in Mark, in his parents who welcomed Tyler without hesitation, in Grandma who protected me even when I didn't know I needed protection, and even in Tyler, who chose to change when change seemed impossible. The ring that started it all, Mark's grandmother's ring, sits on my finger as I write this, catching the light and throwing tiny rainbows across the page. It survived an attempt to destroy it, just like I survived my parents' attempt to destroy me. It's worth $15,000 according to an appraisal, but its real value is immeasurable. It represents generations of love, of commitment, of choosing to build rather than tear down. My parents sold a fake ring for $500 and lost everything. I kept the real ring and gained a life worth living. Sometimes, when I'm working at the hospital, holding a sick child's hand or comforting worried parents, I think about the path that brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the near-death experience, all of it led to this moment where I can be fully present for families in crisis. Last month, a mother tried to take her unconscious daughter's jewelry, claiming she needed to keep it safe. Something in her eyes, a calculating coldness I recognized, made me alert security. Sure enough, she had a history of theft from family members. The jewelry was returned, the mother was arrested, and the daughter, when she woke up, thanked me with tears in her eyes. "How did you know?" she asked. "Sometimes," I told her, "the people who should protect us are the ones we need protection from. It's not your fault. It's never your fault." She's in therapy now, learning to set boundaries, learning that love doesn't require you to be a victim. I check on her sometimes, and she's getting stronger every day. And that's the lesson, isn't it? The one that took me 28 years and nearly dying to learn. Family isn't the people you're born to. It's the people who choose to love you without condition, who celebrate your success without envy, who support you without keeping score. My parents kept score obsessively, every dollar spent on my upbringing itemized against future expected returns. Tyler and I weren't children to them. We were investments, and when I failed to provide adequate returns, they decided to liquidate. But real family doesn't work that way. Mark's parents took in Tyler not because they expected anything in return, but because he needed help. Grandma protected me for years, spending her own money on investigators and lawyers, never asking for thanks. Mark stood by me through the worst period of my life, sleeping in hospital chairs, fighting my battles when I was too weak to fight them myself. That's family. That's love. And that's what my parents, in their greed and narcissism, will never understand. As I finish writing this, Mark is in the kitchen making dinner. Tyler just texted that he got a raise and is adding an extra $100 to this month's payment. Grandma called to remind me about our card game tomorrow. These simple, everyday moments of connection and care are worth more than any ring, any amount of money, any false display of wealth. My parents are in prison. Their dreams of stolen wealth turned to dust. Tyler and I are free, building lives of meaning and authenticity. The fake ring they sold revealed their true nature, and in losing what was false, we found what was real. The ring on my finger catches the light again, a reminder that what's real endures, what's fake crumbles, and sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the key to your freedom. Sometimes a $500 fake can reveal truths worth more than all the money in the world. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had someone in your life who made you feel guilty for your success or obligated to sacrifice your well-being for their wants? How did you find the strength to break free from toxic family members who saw you as a resource rather than a person? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family dysfunction and finding your true worth. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that they're not obligated to set themselves on fire to keep someone else warm, even if that someone is family. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Remember, you deserve love that doesn't come with a price tag, support that doesn't require sacrifice, and a family, whether born or chosen, that sees your worth beyond what you can provide. You are valuable simply because you exist, not because of what you can give. May you find the courage to recognize the fake rings in your own life and the wisdom to hold tight to what's real. Until next time, stay strong, trust your instincts, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. You're worth more than any ring, real or fake, and the people who truly love you will know that without question.